Right, Hammer of the Year. This has been a bit of a discussion that I've seen on X, on various different platforms recently, due to our kind of recent resurgence as such, ignoring the Villa game, of course. Now, I think we'll just go through it player by player and discuss kind of what they've been like this year and whether I think they are Hammer of the Year worthy. Now, we'll start off in goal. It's been a kind of split season for our goalkeepers in that Hermansen started the season for a few games, was absolutely terrible. Areola came in, was actually really good to be fair to him. And then that's what I was surprised when Nuno went back to Hermansen a few weeks ago, or I think it was the Bournemouth game maybe, potentially. Whenever it was, I was quite surprised that he went back to Hermansen. However, since coming back in, Hermansen has actually been really, really good. So neither of these are Hammer of the Year worthy, let's be real. But I do think that they've both been pretty good, ignoring Hermansen's first spell at the start of the season. Right back, we've got Walker Peters. Wan-Bissaka will ignore Walker Peters because he's not Hammer of the Year, of course. Wan-Bissaka, last year's Hammer of the Year. Now, I have been Wan-Bissaka's biggest fan over the last few years. I said, before he even left Man United, I said, whoever picks him up is going to get an absolute bargain. I think it was 15 million, and that's what we did. We got an absolute bargain. Like I say, last year's Hammer of the Year, he hasn't been as good this year, though, let's be real. I think at the start of the season and midway through the season-ish, he was doing all right. I didn't think he was bad, but more recently, he hasn't actually been great, I'd say. Defensively, like, we know him because he's a great 1v1 defender, obviously. But I don't think he's been great at that this season. I think he's actually been arguably better going forward than he has defensively, which is weird to say for Wan-Bissaka. But he's not Hammer of the Year worthy, of course. At left back, Ollie Scholes and Juve. Scholes, again, hasn't really played enough football to warrant Hammer of the Year. Juve, I wouldn't give Juve Hammer of the Year, of course, but I do think he's been pretty good. I think for such a young player, I often forget how young he is. I think he's 21 or 22. And for such a young player, he's come in and not looked out of his depth at all. Defensively, he has got some holes in his game for sure, but he's still young. So maybe you'd expect that. Going forward, he offers so much. His left foot is a joke. For me, not Hammer of the Year, but very, very good nonetheless. Centre-backs, will ignore Kilman, of course. He's been pretty useless this season. The other centre-backs are interesting because this is where there are contenders. Now, Todibo, I wouldn't say is Hammer of the Year. I've been a big Todibo fan. I was on E20 Zone the other day talking about how I've kind of been higher on Todibo than most because I see that his attributes are kind of made for a better football team, if that makes sense. Like, he can follow a runner down a channel. He is so fast. On the ball, he's so comfortable. He always looks so calm and collected. So I can see how he'd work in a bigger team. Now, I'm saying I've been higher on Todibo than most. I've been lower on Mavropanos than most. So I'm not saying I'm some oracle that knows that Todibo was going to be really good, because I thought the opposite about Mavropanos. But I wouldn't say Todibo's been Hammer of the Year worthy. Now, on to Mavropanos. A lot of people are suggesting that he should be Hammer of the Year. Now, I get it. It's not even just the last few games. I mean, the last 2 games, he's been world class. But the last month or 2 months, he has been so much better. Since Disasi's come in, basically, he has been so much better. And he's the type of player where if he's got a really good centre-back next to him, then I think it improves him. There are quite a few defenders like that in the Premier League worldwide, where they're much better when they've got a more calming presence, a better defender next to him. And I think Mavropanos is that. We know that his strengths lie with blocking, like throwing his body at everything, and also in the air. He's a joke in the air. He wins absolutely everything. Whether he's Hammer of the Year or not, I'll get to the end. I'll discuss every player and then get to the end and then say who I think is Hammer of the Year. But he's certainly up there because his kind of resurgence has been insane, to be fair to him. Now, we've got Disasi, who obviously came in January, making it difficult for him to be Hammer of the Year. However, his arrival has coincided with the best part of our season. And whether that is down to him, I think our defensive resurgence has a lot to do with him. He came in and the first 3 or 4 games, he was immense. In the Villa game, he actually wasn't that great. I think that was probably his worst performance in a West Ham shirt. But then, outside of Mavropanos and maybe Traore, everyone was pretty bad. So I'm not sure we can really blame him too much, but because he's been a joke. He's been an absolute joke since he's come in. Again, Hammer of the Year worthy? Probably not, just because he hasn't been here all year, but he, I think, is a large part of our resurgence. So he's definitely been incredible this year. Onto the centre midfielders, we'll ignore players like Potts, Magassa, we'll absolutely ignore Paqueta because he was horrific while he was at the club this season. So we'll ignore those and we'll do Soucek first. Soucek, again, him coming back into the team has been part of our resurgence. He has been absolutely excellent. Again, you know what you're getting with him. He will give absolutely everything. He'll give 110% every single game. He'll win everything in the air. On the ball, he's not technically great, but we know that from him. He doesn't need to be when you've got other players in the team that are good on the ball. When you've got a Mateus Fernandes next to you, you don't need to be good on the ball. That's not what Soucek is in there for. However, what he is in there for is breaking up play, winning the ball, and he is very good at coming up with an important goal, crashing the box late, and scoring very important goals. He scored a lot of goals for West Ham. I think it goes underrated how many goals he scored. Not Hammer of the Year worthy for me, but very, very good. Now moving on to the other midfielder, Mateus Fernandes. What a player he is. This fee is looking like a bargain now for him. An absolute bargain. There were eyebrows raised when we first brought him in the summer. He showed last season for Southampton that he has quality. We know that. But this season he's definitely taken it up a notch. He can actually do it all. I'm actually not 100% sure what his best position is, whether it is as an 8, whether it is as a 10, whether it is as a 6 even, to be honest, because he's shown traits and attributes from all of those. I think previously in his career he's been more of a 10, but I see him as a deeper player, to be honest. What he's really good at is picking the ball up off centre-backs like a 6 and being able to dictate play from there. We've seen multiple goals this season that have started with Fernandes picking the ball up off of a centre-back and either driving forward with it, playing the ball forward, playing a long diagonal, then he gets himself forward and can then provide the quality higher up the pitch. He can play a through ball that gets Summerville in or Bowen in, for example. Or we've seen that he'll pick up the ball off a centre-back, move the ball forward, get up the pitch and then score himself. He has got the traits and the attributes to play in all 3 of the midfield positions. And he's still so young. Even when Paqueta was still at the club, Fernandes looked like the more experienced player. He looked like the one who was dragging the team, even when we weren't playing so well. And this is why, for me, I think that there is a real shout for Mateus Fernandes to be Hammer of the Year, because even when we were not playing well in the first half of the season, you still saw times when he was performing well. He was outperforming Paqueta. Not that that was particularly difficult given how Paqueta was performing at the time, but I think for such a young player, that is really, really impressive. So he is definitely a contender for Hammer of the Year this season. Now onto the attacking players. Callum Wilson, not really worth the discussion, I don't think. I also don't think that Pablo and Taty are particularly worth the discussion. Same with Traore, to be honest. Just because out of them, maybe we talk about Taty a little bit because he's come in and been really good. I've spoke about him a lot on this channel. And for me, technically he's not very good. He's not very good technically at all. When he gets on the ball, he's not great, especially if he's got time. He makes the wrong decision quite a lot. He snatches at things quite a lot. Similar to Pablo in that sense. But I don't really care because he works so hard. He presses so hard. And when the ball goes into him, he can flick it onto these players. And that's what I think is more important. When you've got players like Fernandes, Summerville, Bowen, you don't necessarily need another player that is technically really, really good on the ball. You need someone who's going to work hard up there. And he will. The other players will contribute with their technical ability. So I'm not sure you need the striker to necessarily have all this technical ability. I mean, maybe, yeah, it could be a bit more useful because we do probably want a few goals from him. We are relying on Summerville and Bowen for goals, really. But he does bring something else to the team, and I think that is really useful. I've seen a lot of people slating him. I'm not sure that's fair. There are times when he hasn't been great for sure, but he will still give you everything. And in a relegation battle, that can go quite a long way, in my opinion. But definitely not Hammer of the Year. Now, Jarrod Bowen has obviously won Hammer of the Year before. The season before last, I believe. It was him, then Wan-Bissaka last year. I don't think this is a year where he deserves Hammer of the Year. There have been times when he's been brilliant. And as a captain, I think he's fantastic. However, I don't think that his performances warrant Hammer of the Year. Numbers-wise, he's still pretty good as well. He's the highest... I think he's got the most goals and assists combined, or the most goal contributions of any English player in the league, which is impressive given this is a not as good season for him. This is a bad season for him, and at times he's come up with really important goals. I'm not slating him in any way, because as a captain, as a player, I absolutely love him. He is fantastic. I just don't think that he's Hammer of the Year worthy. I don't think this is his best season in a West Ham shirt, to be honest. On the other side, Summerville, of course, I was really excited when he came back from injury. Obviously, he started the season injured, but he has been fantastic more recently. I'm of the opinion that the QPR game caused our resurgence, started our resurgence, and I think that Summerville's goal was huge. Summerville was the start of this resurgence, in my opinion. Right at the beginning of this, at the QPR, at the Spurs games, his performances were the ones that stood out. Him scoring goals finally is, for me, what kicked us into gear. And he went on a run of unbelievable form. It's very annoying that he's got this injury at the moment, but it looks like he's going to be back soon. I think he really is in with a shout of Hammer of the Year, because there are times when it has been his goals that we've relied on in this run. So for me, he is definitely in with a shout. For me, I'd say that the top three here are Mavropanos, Mateus Fernandes, and Crysencio Summerville. I think Bowen is maybe quite close, but I don't think he gets it. For me, I also think that Soucek is worth talking about. Taty Disasi, again, worth talking about. But for me, it's Summerville, Fernandes, and it's Mavropanos. Disasi actually comes close, despite the fact that he's only come in for the second half of the season. He has been so good that he actually comes into the conversation, which is crazy to say given he hasn't even been here for the whole season. But the order that I've got the top three in is Mavropanos at 3, just because I think we kind of forget at the start of the season, he wasn't good. He had so many mistakes in him. He really didn't perform like he is now, to be honest. We all kind of had written him off. So for me, he's at 3. He is performing incredibly well right now. And if he continues performances like the Man City, like the Aston Villa performance for the rest of the season, there's every chance that he gets bumped higher in this. For me, at number 2, I've got Summerville. I think he was so important in our resurgence. I think that his form, his goals, sparked all of this. But at number 1, I've got Mateus Fernandes, and the reason for this is because there have been a lot of times when he's been the best player in our team during this good spell for us. But the main reason is because even when we weren't playing well, at the beginning of the season, he was still very good. He was putting in very good performances. You were watching games, and there were times where he was still performing well, despite the actual rest of the team performing pretty poorly. So for me, just because of the longevity of his form as such, the longevity of his good performances, it spans over more than just the second half of the season. So that's the reason that I've got Fernandes. I think he's an incredible talent. I would be very surprised if we manage to keep hold of him. Hopefully, if we stay up, we can keep him for one more year at least. But it wouldn't surprise me if a big team came in for him at all. Whether that's a Premier League team, I could just see him at PSG. You can see him at PSG. He's such a PSG player. So if we get good money for him, then fine. But I really hope we can keep him for another year. For me, Mateus Fernandes is Hammer of the Year at the moment. Let's see how it pans out towards the end of the season, because I'll do another video on this at the end of the season, who I think the Hammer of the Year should be. And we'll see who it actually gets given to as well. But that's all for this one. I've got another few videos lined up in the international break. I've got some good ones. I've got one predicting the relegation battle. I'll go through each fixture for all 4 teams involved and predict the results and see who gets relegated. And then I've also got one where I take a look at Spurs' squad, and if they get relegated, I have a look at who I'd take at West Ham. So that'll be an interesting and quite a fun one. But that's all for this one. If you liked the video, make sure you hit like, make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.